Hi, it's Leanne in Adelaide. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Well, you haven't watched it yet, have you? But thank you so much for coming back to my channel. And if you're new, big welcome. It's been a long time since I've done a video. It's about time. And thank you to my dear subscribers for hanging around, because I can see the numbers haven't really dropped off, which is very nice of you. So you're in for a treat today because I've got an indoor plant tour. Yeah, what else can I say? Oh my God. As you can see, the room's pretty big. That's the floor plants over there, the kitchen bench there. The plants over in the corner. Diagonally opposite is the other corner, zooming past the bottle propagations, and then plants in the diagonally opposite corner, which faces north. So down here we've got humidifier. Some of these plants are a little bit more fussy with humidity, so they are grouped near there. I'll turn that humidifier off and let's get started with this plant shelf. That's my original Paleo Peperoitis. I haven't had to stake it yet, but it's starting to look very precarious. I've got multiple babies in there. There's one out on the side. Now I think this one is officially a grandmother because the babies have had babies. This one up here, I'll bring it down, have a look. It's called Napoli Nights. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's kind of growing on me because it's got bigger. The leaves were tiny before. The leaves are getting bigger and they should get to about double that current size. So behind is another Paleo Peperoitis. Back in front, a little llama. This little cutie's got a Syngonium Maria in there. Very tiny little off cut. And that's actually put on a new leaf, so happy with that. So very newly planted, about 4 weeks old. The last two on the top shelf are both Pothos. Got neon, and that's a cutting from my main one. That's bottle propagated. And moving down to the second shelf, another reject shot pot. Quite like that one, the silvery look. And another neon Pothos. Love the colour of the new leaves, nice and lime green. Behind that is a Ficus ruby, and that's a propagation. I've got quite mature propagations now. Came off 2 mature plants that I had outside, and they no longer exist. Moving to the front here, got another Rhaphidophorus tetrasperma. Popping behind there, another snow queen, and bear in mind all these snow queens came off the one plant. There's another snow queen here in front. She's starting to climb. Behind her, in another reject shot pot, is a Maria Syngonium, another Rhaphidophorus tetrasperma in front. So these smaller Paleo Peperoitis, these are babies of my larger one, and I've also got some babies of those babies elsewhere. The back, another Ficus ruby. These dot pots are all reject shop. In the front here, looking fairly leggy, is another neon Pothos. Moving down, and you can see I've got these little quirky bits and pieces in here. Next shelf down, Monstera Adansonii, and I've got 2 plants. I bought one originally and one's been propagated off, and this one's going mad. This needs a repot really badly. It's sucking up the water in way under a week. You can see the size of the plant. Those strands are quite long. Tucked behind that is a Serapagio woodii, the string of hearts. So when I got this plant, it was so tiny. It was an online plant from a succulent store online in Australia. And since then, look what it's done. So this is only a few months ago. Another Paleo Peperoitis here at the front. Now see how that leaf there has done that. I've never really been able to find a good answer by Googling as to why it does that. So if anybody knows anything about that and what to do about it and how to avoid it, please let me know. At the back there, another Ficus ruby, Ficus ruby. I use the names interchangeably. Another one here in front, at the back. It's a Philodendron Birkin. That was quite tiny when I got it. It's been a slow grower for me, but it's just starting to do something, and also getting a bit of variegation. It was next to that, another Ficus burgundy. Next to that one, a tiny little Monstera Adansonii cutting that I rooted in water. Another fairly large Peperoitis, Paleo Peperoitis. Another marble queen here, very similar to the other one. I got it from the same shop. It was from Big W, so I've got pretty similar coloration. And again, not being a fast grower, but they weren't that big when I got them. This one here in front is a Hoya Carnosa. That is a cutting from the main plant. The main plant's actually going a bit psycho. I'll show you the psycho plant later on. Another Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. Actually, I'll show you the psycho Hoya plant now. It's right down the bottom, but what it's done is it's just attached itself to the support of the IKEA shelving. And it's winding its way up, as you can see, popping out a leaf every now and then. And it's still winding its way up, all the way up, all the way up to there. A couple of other floor plants here, another Ficus ruby over here. This is in my first houseplant video. Moving down to the second to bottom shelf, towards the middle of the second to bottom shelf and the bottom shelf, I have plants that require high humidity, or just happier with high humidity. So starting off at the edges here, I've got another Rhaphidophora tetrasperma cutting, another Ficus ruby, another Paleo Peperoitis at the back there. In the front, a neon Pothos. When I bought these, I didn't realise that they were in really, very moisture-retentive soil, and they had been overwatered clearly for quite some time. This is bought from Big W. They're not really renowned for knowing how to look after their plants. It's just really a sideline. Next to that, a Maranta Lucanera, I think the name is, or prayer plant. That did have 2 separate plants within the pot. The first one, when I bought it, looks like it's died off. It produced this, so hopefully I'll be able to keep this one alive. So I've put it closer to the humidifier. This is an Alocasia Black Magic, I think it's called. And again, probably not doing that well. Our humidity isn't very high, even with the humidifier on. So that's about as good as it's going to get, and we'll just see what happens to, I think it might be called black mask actually. So even with the humidifier, really struggling. But those new leaves don't look too bad. Another Ficus burgundy at the back. See Paleo Peperoitis, a neon Pothos. Getting that to climb up. Another Ficus burgundy there. In the corner, very small, rescued one of the neon Pothos. And you can see some strings of that, the Serapegio woodii hanging down, string of hearts. Chain of hearts. It's chain of hearts, silly Leanne. Another Snow Queen. Moving down to the bottom shelf, that was the Hoya Carnosa I showed you before. Behind that, got a Philodendron black Cardinal. This is really weird. Like, I thought the leaves were meant to be really dark. One of them is, that's the oldest one, so if anybody knows about that. I thought that they got dark fairly quickly, whereas these leaves have been like that for several months. So I don't know what's going on there. I've got a different back here, in front here, and then next to that is another one. I split the plants up because they were way too crowded in a small pot. Another Ficus ruby. At the back there, I've got two Spathiphyllum plants. Now, what happens is when I go to small country towns, if we're just staying away for a couple of days, I like to buy things locally. And I thought, why not buy a plant from the plant shop and support the local community? It was a really bushy, lovely plant, probably way too much plant in a pot, and I left it that way. I didn't repot it because I wanted it to settle down, but I probably should have repotted it. It deteriorated very, very quickly, and eventually I had to just dig out what I could of what was left and pot them up. So that's the result there, and you've got one flower that's just dying off. So I think they're going to be okay. In front, two plants that are the same. You go to a lot of plant shops in Australia and you've got a plant and it'll just have Syngonium on it. It won't tell you which variety it is, or it'll have Pothos, but it won't tell you what variety it is. I mean, I think that's really annoying that they can't name their plants properly. And that's pretty rich for me to say that. I can't even name my plants properly. So I haven't quite worked out what it is. It could be some sort of berry illusion. There's also apparently a lighter pink version of the Maria. If anybody knows what this variety is, I'd love to know. It's been bugging me. Well, this shelving here is in front of a south-facing window, and in Australia that's where the darkest one of the lot. I'll start with the top shelf. So Nephrolepsis, Exalter, Bostoniensis, and the Boston Fern as it's commonly named. And I have to turn that around a fair bit. It gets pretty bare on one side, but it's growing well. I'll be able to split that up eventually. Moving on, I've got a Devil's Ivy or Golden Pothos or Epiprimum aureum. Behind that one, I have a Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. Next to the Golden Pothos, there's a Snow Queen. And I started that from one plant This one's a water propagation that's been in the soil for probably 2 months. Next to that, 2 of the ficus or ficus ruby, and these are from, those 2 are from the reject shop. This white dotty one is also reject shop, and I've got some others from Bunnings, which are generally more expensive. Reject shop's got the cheapest for pots, and I think for Australia. This one is the Marble Queen Pothos, and got some good colour variation. I like that. There's some of it's quite splotchy. Got an older leaf there, dark green, and got some pale ones. Liking that. It's a slow grower for me so far, so we'll see what happens, but looking forward to getting more growth and being able to propagate off that. Behind it is a Syngonium white butterfly. Not looking all that white. Just turn it around. You can see that the areas that were in a bit higher light are showing some of that white butterfly look. Next to those plants, another ficus ruby plant, relatively new to the soil, probably in the last few months. Another bottle propagation. Behind that, ficus lyrata. You can see the distinctive leaf shapes. I don't know what I had, whether I had thrips or what it was, but I've got a few with holes in them, so I think the thrips are gone. I did spray them a bit and they seem to be gone now. And this is a Syngonium Maria. Quite like the colouring of that. That was a plant I got from Virginia Nursery, north of Adelaide. It's a huge place. If you live in Adelaide, you've got to go there. It's just worth it for their display of some of their indoor plants. They've got some really old plants that have been there forever. Behind that, a Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. There's another Snow Queen. I believe this one might be the original plant. Here we've got Skindactus, Pictus, Exotica, I think, or my label says silver satin or something like that, but I don't know if that's correct. It does look like an Exotica. Very small plant. It didn't do very well in the transition to home, and I've propagated some pieces off it because I thought that this original plant was going to die, but it hasn't died. It's not looking terribly well. Moving down, Neon Pothos. In Australia they give this name Goldilocks as well. This is the original plant that I've propagated many off. I love, love, love the fresh lime green of the new growth. It's fantastic. Beautiful. And compared to the other growth, which is still nice, of course. Another Syngonium Maria. So yeah, got 4 plants out of 1, which is great. Syngoniums are really good for doing that. For beginners, definitely recommend you get some, grow them up, and then divide them. Here's another one in front of the Syngonium Maria. Behind that is another white butterfly, another fiddle leaf fig. Bought 3 small ones ages ago. They're really tiny, like, I mean, when I say tiny, you're talking about the size of your little finger, with tiny leaves the size of a fingernail. So they've grown okay. Another ficus ruby. Starting first of the peperomias, I've bought 1 plant and have made heaps out of just that one Peperomia obtusifolia, the green one, which is the plain green one, which is sometimes called the baby rubber plant. Next to that, a much newer Peperomia, which I do not know the name, but I will put it in the comments. Ficus lyrata. Plant in the corner there is another one from Virginia Nursery. It did look much better than that. I managed to nearly kill it. I didn't realise the soil was so dry, and I let it dry out. It's a silver lady fern, I think the name is. And it does actually produce, they sometimes call it like a baby tree fern because it ends up producing a little bit of a trunk. And even though you can't see that very well, it is starting to just get a little tiny little trunk there. And I've got giving it lots of water, but also lots of perlite, and I'm hoping that will do the trick now. Next to that is a neon Pothos cutting that I rooted in water, and that's going quite well. The bottom shelf has got a lot of peperomias. We've got heaps of the green ones, which I've propagated from the original plant. So you can see a couple there. Another one of the Snow Queen Pathos. More of the green peperomias. A variegated one behind it, which is a cutting that came from the one next to it. You can see that's a lot more mature. I had these in the last video, but I'm pretty sure I've got a lot more. Two more lots of Peperomia obtusifolia. This Monstera Adansonii is the narrow form. It was looking really quite unwell when I bought it, but I hadn't seen one at all at any shops I've been to that wasn't for a ridiculous price. This one was $16. Has grown quite a lot since I got it. So I just use the shelving at the moment to provide support. So it's got two main trails there. I have propagated off this one as well. This plant here is growing basically vertically, if you can see that. And it's a dragon's tail. It's a Rhaphidophora decursiva or something like that. I can't pronounce the names. The new leaves that are coming out, the last couple, have no splits. The reason why I bought the plant is because it was quite a young plant. I had one split when I got it, and then it produced the next leaf had splits, more splits, and I got really excited, and then it's gone back to that. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed looking at my house plants. I'll be back again in the next few weeks with another video. I think I've done a pretty good job out of a very small number of plants. You can see I've had multiples of plants in the tours, and that's all been done only in the last few months. And I'll look forward to seeing you back again sometime soon. Bye.